In a world that is just screaming for more followers, louder voices, and bigger platforms, we're going to look at a pretty radical idea today. What if the greatest influence, the deepest reward, is actually found not in the spotlight, but in the quiet? I mean, think about it. Is a bigger platform always better? Our culture's answer to that seems pretty obvious, right? It's a loud yes. Success is measured by your reach, by your numbers, by how visible you are. But the source material for this explainer, which comes from a talk by Pastor Francis Chan, it really challenges that assumption at its very core. And this is where it starts. He says, every time I step on a stage, it's like almost drinking a little bit of poison. Whoa. That is a shocking thing to say, especially from someone who speaks to thousands of people. So what does he mean by poison? Well, he's talking about that internal battle that happens in the spotlight, that tension between why you're really there and that very human part of you that just wants to be liked, that wants the crowd's praise. It's like this subtle toxin that can kind of poison your real purpose. And this poison of the platform isn't just about ego. It's the whole environment that comes with it, right? The constant need for approval on one side and then the crippling fear of criticism on the other. Chan argues that this pressure can just seriously mess up your inner life, and it pulls your focus away from a place of real authenticity and puts it right into a place of performance. Okay, so if the platform is a potential poison, then what's the antidote? Well, in direct opposition to our modern ambition for a bigger crowd, the source points us to the surprising biblical instruction, a command to actively go after the exact opposite. And here it is, 1 Thessalonians 4:11. The key phrase here is, make it your ambition. Think about that. This isn't just a passive suggestion to, chill out a little. No, it's an active command to strive for something, to make a quiet life your main goal. In the world we live in today, that is a truly radical idea. And when you put them side by side, the contrast just couldn't be more stark. I mean, on one side, you've got our culture's checklist for success, right? Get a bigger crowd, have a louder voice, reach more followers, be seen. And on the other side, this quiet ambition. Live quietly, mind your own business, work with your hands, be dependent on no one. It's like these are two completely different paths to what we call influence. So, to make sure this idea doesn't just float off into the clouds, the source grounds it in the ultimate example, Jesus himself. And the question is asked, did Jesus chase after the kind of influence and platform that we're all chasing today? This is such a powerful question. No, really, stop and think about this. What did Jesus do when he was 23, or 25, or 28? We're talking about literally the most influential person in the history of the world, and yet for about 30 years of his life, there's just almost complete silence. Why is that?
Well, the answer is pretty simple, and it's found in what he did for a living. He was a carpenter. He worked with his hands. He was faithful in the small, unseen, everyday things. And the source points out that later, he often ran from crowds, not towards them. For 3 decades, he actually modeled this principle we're talking about. He made it his ambition to live a quiet life.
And this quote just nails it. We have a lot of people clamoring to be voices. We need fewer voices and more examples. There's no shortage of people who want to be a voice, right? But what we might actually need more of are these quiet examples of faithfulness, of integrity, of character, stuff that's built in private long before it's ever seen in public. And that whole idea of building character in private, well, it leads to a really convicting question about our priorities. The argument now shifts to this fundamental reversal we see in our culture, what we choose to broadcast to the world versus what we desperately try to hide. The source poses this question, and man, it hits hard. Does anyone do anything in secret anymore? We live in an age of performance. We post our quiet time with a perfectly placed coffee mug and open book. We let everyone know about our charitable giving. That line between authentic living and just, public relations, it's gotten incredibly blurry. And what this reveals is a complete inversion of priorities. Our culture's way is to post our good works for public applause while we hide our struggles and our sin in private shame. But the source argues the biblical model is the exact opposite. You confess your struggles for community and healing, and you keep your good deeds private, where the reward comes from a much deeper source. And that's really the punchline. This isn't about some minor course correction. The argument is that our modern performance-driven culture has pushed us into a way of living that is completely 100% backward from this scriptural model of authenticity. So, why? Why would anyone choose this seemingly backwards path? What's the reward for all this secrecy? Well, the final part of this whole argument is about the unique power and intimacy that comes from a life that's lived for an audience of just one. And here's the real gut check question. Imagine something amazing happens to you, a genuine miracle in your life, but you're told you can't share it, you can't post about it, you can't tweet it, you can't make a video. Would that experience still feel as valuable to you? It's a question that reveals our true motivation. Is it for God or is it for the likes? The path to this secret reward isn't complicated. It's really about intentionally moving our acts of devotion into the private sphere, praying behind a closed door, doing good where nobody can possibly see it. The source argues this is exactly how you cultivate a real, deep intimacy with God, that no one else gets to see, but that you experience profoundly. And here's a fascinating example of this from the book of Revelation. The Apostle John hears these 7 thunders speak. And you think this is huge news, right? But he's told, seal up what the 7 thunders have said and do not write it down. The number of people who knew what they said? 1. Just John. Sometimes God gives a revelation that's not for the whole world, it's just for you. And so that brings us to the final challenging question. What if the deepest, most miraculous things in your life were meant to be a secret? An intimate moment shared only between you and God, something you couldn't ever use to build your platform. Would that feel like the greatest honor? Or would it feel like a frustration? Ultimately, the question you have to ask yourself is, would that be enough for you?